Hey everyone, today we are gonna talk about a workplace topic that I feel doesn't get a ton of attention, but is actually super important and something that I really want you guys to think about and something you're gonna come in contact with. And you've probably, in fact, already come in contact with it in the workplace, and that's generational differences. Um, in our workplace. We are shaped differently by the times we grew up in and the things that were going on um, during our lifetimes. And that's going to shape how we interact and how we function in a workplace. Um, Work is a really interesting thing though because um, unlike a lot of other times in our lives, work we you really will have to work with um, every single different type of generation. So Purdue University, I found this article and I thought they did like a really good job, and it's up to date too, which is it's kind of hard to find up to date stuff on this. I have found on workplace environments and different generations in the workplace. Um, and so here's how they kind of broke it down. Um, the current U.S. Workforce numbers. We've got our traditionalists. Um, Also, you've maybe heard in like history class. I think they're sometimes called the Greatest Generation. This is kind of your World War II generation, and as of now, they only make up like 2% of the workforce, which makes sense because they're getting older and they're retiring. Um, and then, of course, after that, we got baby boomers, the generation, a lot of the traditionalist kids. Um, and for you guys, this, you might have a grandparent that falls. I have a grandparent. I have grandparents that fall into this category, but I'm a little bit older, and also my family's weird and big, um, but I'd assume most of your grandparents probably fall into this baby boomer category. Um, Either that or they're like, pretty young traditionalists. I'm assuming. I don't know. It's different for every family, obviously. Um, yeah, so this is the baby boomer generation. We'll get into more of what the baby boomer generation actually looks like. Um, Generation X, this is probably most likely your parents. Um, this is the generation after the baby boomers. So that's Generation X, 1965 to 1980. Then millennials. I'm trying to think of you guys' ages. I Let's see. Yeah, you guys probably all Generation Z people at this point. Um, um, Otherwise, you're you're like a very very young millennial. In fact, I've seen other stats where that's thrown me in Generation Z before, but in this one, it categorizes me as a millennial because I was born in 1998. So millennials, maybe you might be a super young one, but maybe you have a sibling that categorizes as a millennial. That's their category right here, and then I assume most of you are in Generation Z. Notice Generation Z and the traditionalists are the smallest percentage because Generation Z, frankly, is a bit young to be really fully integrated into the workforce, and they're a bit old to be integrated into the workforce. So that's why these are the smallest things, and then goes up from there. Um, so traditionalists or greatest generation. Um, Shaped by Great Depression, World War II, radios and movies. Now we're painting kind of broad brushes here. This obviously isn't every single person in this generation, right? This is just what Purdue's study found, and this professor of business found. So So, if you don't think someone that falls into one of these generations hits these, that's perfectly normal. Um, Motivated by respect, recognition, long-term value to companies. Communication style, personal touch, handwritten notes instead of email, kind of individualist. They're really a believer of age equals seniority, and advancing through hierarchy. Um, uh, Provide satisfying work and opportunities. Um, and emphasize stability. This is what an employer should do if you were like a boss of one of these, of a traditionalist. A baby boomer, they are shaped by um, Vietnam War, Civil Rights Movement, Watergate. I'm sure you guys have heard of all those things in history class. Um, they are motivated by company loyalty, teamwork, duty, and then communication style, whatever is most efficient. Phone calls, face to face. Um, Achievement comes after playing one's dues at a sacrifice for success, and employers should provide them with specific goals and deadlines, and offer coaching style feedback. Generation X. So these are probably your parents. Shaped by the AIDS epidemic, fall of Berlin, the Berlin Wall, the dot-com boom. Um, they are motivated by diversity, work-life balance, their own personal professional interests rather than the company's interests. Um, Again, these are, not necessarily you know, the communication style for every single person in Generation X. I just want to keep communicating that to you guys. This is just a study, so they're generalizing. Um, they and then employers should give them immediate feedback, um, and be more flexible with them, and have extend opportunities for personal development. Millennials, this is, I guess, what I fall into, and maybe you guys do too, shaped by Columbine, 9/11, and the internet. It's funny because I don't actually remember any of those things happening. Like, I don't remember there not being an internet. I don't remember the call. I don't think I was alive during the Columbine shootings. Obviously, that was a tragic event that really shaped American history. Um, and then I was like, well, I would have been like 3 during, let's see, I'm thinking here. So that would have been 2000. Yeah, I would have been 3 during 9/11. So, don't remember a lot of this stuff. I'm kind of in that, like, I'm sure some of you guys might be here too. I'm kind of in that awkward, like, really, really young millennial. Um, Anyhow, sorry, kind of went on a tangent there. Seeking challenge, growth and development, a fun work life and work life balance. Fun work, weird. Okay, likely to leave an organization if they don't like change. Employers should get to know them personally, manage by results, be flexible, and schedule work assignments, provide immediate feedback. And lastly, this is probably mostly you guys. Life after 9/11, the Great Recession, access to technology from a young age. Honestly, this like I actually remember these things, so yeah, I can almost kind of relate with that generation more. But whatever. Motivated by diversity, um, personalization, creativity, and then they communicate through text messages and social media. Um, Self-identify as digital device addicts, value independence, and individuality, prefer to work with millennial managers, innovative coworkers, new technologies, and employers should offer opportunities to work on multiple projects at the same time, provide work-life balance, and allow them to be self-directed and independent. So, for your assignment, um, I would like you guys to do something like this. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy, I think. Um, First of all, I want you to pick a generation. Give me any generation. So I went ahead and I picked millennials because that's what I technically fall into. But you don't have to do your own. You can do any generation. I just picked millennials as an example, and you can pick millennials too. This is one of those times where you can use. You can't do verbatim what I did, but you can use millennials. You just have to pick different strengths and problems. So that's all that goes up here is the generation. Then you just say a strength. So millennials seek a unique work environment. So that could be a strength for them. There's other strengths listed there too. A problem you could have. So this is like you from like an employer perspective. Like if you were their boss, um, how would you deal with their like what is a problem you could foresee them having? So that's a problem with millennials in the workplace that was identified. They're more likely to leave the companies. Um, and how could you deal with the problem? Well, you could potentially, as a boss, as an employer of a millennial, you could make the job more flexible. And that's all I just do a short bit. But I was thinking like, if you could offer them projects that they could do at home rather than coming into work, that's a way you could make things more flexible. If you could, let them work with people that aren't necessarily like in their immediate department, and if that's logical and makes sense, that could be um, another way you can make things more flexible for them. Of course, when you're making things more flexible, that doesn't mean that these employees should just not get their work done. Like they still are you still need to hold them to a certain standard here. But we can really think about how we can make things more flexible. So that's all I need you guys to do for that. Just go through this article here, find some strengths, find some potential problems with any of these generations, um, and then fill this out. So yeah, email me if you have any problems.